Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Kaylee Batesman, the Content Director at SheCanCode, and today we are discussing Breaking Barriers, a woman's journey from employee to tech entrepreneur. Today we're sitting down with the wonderful Sam Gaskell, CEO of DataFit, who is a trailblazing woman in the tech industry, and we're going to delve into her inspiring journey from being an employee to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Welcome, Sam. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I know you're a really busy lady. In the intro there, we mentioned employee to entrepreneur. So we're dying to hear all about your journey today. Can we kick off with a little bit of context, a little bit of background about you, just to set the scene, please?
Of course, yes, no problem. Yes, hi everyone, Sam Gaskell, founder and CEO at DataFit. So we offer data management consultancy and training to businesses of all sizes, and also individuals who are looking to expand in the data realm, really.
Incredible. And you did you fall into the tech industry? Did you know you wanted to go in? What was life like at school, for instance?
Oh, yes, very good question. So I weirdly had done a careers questionnaire, like when you're in school and trying to figure out what it is that you want to go on to do. And something that came up at the time was a software engineer. And I absolutely loved sort of computing and IT in school. And so I think it's something I've always been very keen on. I've always loved sort of technology. My mum, she worked within sort of systems as well, and has done until she retired more recently. And so I don't know if it was just kind of, I'd been around her and had seen stuff that existed and was out there, really.
Yeah, it's nice. You actually this week I've heard a few ladies who said their mums had inspired them to go into tech. And that's nice that people are saying that now, that it's becoming a generational thing. Actually, I saw that
Definitely.
from a parent. So yeah, that's lovely. And it's always nice to hear that people like that as a child. So a lot of people do fall into the tech industry and they never ever thought that they would work in tech. But
Yeah.
sometimes when people just kind of knew that they had a bit of a knack for that as a child and kind of chose that route.
Yeah, it's funny because even though it was something that came up during school, it then wasn't the path I was going to be taking. So I think although I had that like keenness and interest in it, I still went down the health and social care route. I don't know if it was more just because that's kind of from a female perspective where I was kind of directed, I suppose. But yeah, even though my mum was already in that space, it was an interest, but not a direct path. So I don't know I don't know, I definitely wouldn't say that I probably fell into it because it's kind of always been in me. But yeah, I think even still the career could have taken a very different way, a very different path. So yeah.
Yeah. And your path is a really interesting one that we're going to dive into today. So can you share with us a bit about your journey from being an employee in the tech industry to becoming an entrepreneur, and what inspired you to make this transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've now worked in tech and data specifically for over 12 years. As I say, I've always had a bit of an interest in sort of systems and data in some way. And I officially sort of started my data career as a data quality clerk. When I think back now, I'm kind of amazed that because at the time I had no experience or knowledge of what data really was. So I think in every single one of my roles prior to that, I'd always been the kind of go-to person within sort of my teams and within the departments that I worked in, because I was always quite tech savvy. So I was quite heavily relied on it there. But yeah, as I say, I had no experience, no knowledge of data quality, and I think I was very lucky that when I was in the interview, two very, very lovely women, and I was very honest actually, and I think I would say and recommend to everybody that's going for jobs and interviews, just be honest. Like, you don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. And I remember one of the questions that they asked me was, do you understand the impact of bad data quality? And at the time I was working for the NHS, and so that was the impact on patients. And actually I didn't know. And I went into that interview and I said, to be honest with you, I don't. But I just showed my sort of yeah, interest and passion for learning and attitude to just kind of get stuck in and figure it out along the way. And
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to them because they were the people that kind of gave me my first proper data role and gave me that opportunity. So yeah, so that's kind of where it started. But being within that team, it then gave me sort of access to a wider sort of information management team. So they were the people who were the analysts, proper analysing, writing code, creating dashboards. And to me, that looked incredibly exciting. Excuse me. And I basically wanted to learn it. And so I'd built a really nice relationship with the manager of that team. And I said, tell me what I need to do to be able to come and do that. Tell me what skills I need to learn from like a coding perspective, from I guess, understanding the business better. If there's anything that I need to learn, can you tell me what I need to go and do? And yeah, so I just was seconded over at the time just to kind of see how I got on, and yeah, the rest is history really with all of that. I just kind of loved it. I found writing code really sort of logical and methodical. That's very much my brain. And yeah, I just loved learning from other people and working with the business. And within that, I very quickly identified a bit of a niche for myself. So although I love the coding and the dashboarding, I very quickly witnessed that a lot of technical people, I'm not going to tarnish everybody with the same brush, but technical people tend not to be able to communicate too well with the business. And so I very quickly learned to become the kind of to bridge the gap between the technical and the non-technical teams. And that's kind of where my career has gone. In every role that I've had, I've always been that person that sat in the middle, enabling everybody else to kind of get on and do their jobs really, and gather requirements from the business and interpret that back. And yeah, it's been amazing. And I did that for 10 years. And I was very, very lucky to have worked with some amazing brands. I worked with Zoopla, I've worked at M&S, British Gas, and then obviously, as I mentioned, the NHS as well. And yeah, I spent that time sort of honing and crafting my skills really, and until 2022, and then that's when DataFit kind of was launched, and here we are.
It's quite I mean, incredibly brave thought as well to think, yeah, well, I'm going to do so. I'm going to start my own business, and it's not something that you can take lightly and just think, yeah, it's quite another thing. And it's incredibly hard. So how did that happen? How did you have that thought, and then you thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it, and this is going to be a success?
Yes. So in February 2022, had my second son. For years, I think entrepreneurship has kind of been within me forever. And so when I was younger, I'd started a couple of businesses. This is very non-tech, but from my creative side, I used to bake cakes and I used to sell them. So yeah, I think entrepreneurship and having that business has always kind of been, as I say, in me. But what that business looked like, and from a longevity perspective, I didn't know what it was going to be. But yeah, as I say, February 2022, I had our second son. And as I was coming to go on maternity leave, there was just stuff kind of going on politics wise. I was promised a promotion that kind of came to nothing. And I think that's happened multiple times. And it kind of gotten to this point where I was like, it's kind of now or never. I mean, that sounds very dramatic, but it was kind of, that's how I felt at the time. I had this fire in my belly to just do it. And I don't know whether maybe that was a bit of lack of sleep as well from newborn.
That's delirious. So I thought, I'm going to start my own business.
I mean, it would make sense, wouldn't it? But yeah, so I at the time just thought, I think this is it for me. And yeah, I found working in full-time employment, even then my approach was always from a very entrepreneurial mindset, in that everyone was my customer. I served them internally, whether that was externally, whoever it was, they were always my customer, and I was there to kind of unblock and relieve pain points, and yeah, just make sure that they could do what they needed to do. And I feel like I've brought that through into DataFit. That's all I want to do. I want to work with businesses and individuals that have data and want to make better use of it, and yeah, just yeah, provide focus on that data management piece and expertise, and kind of, yeah, take the pressure off in that space. And so yeah, it was a big decision. It's not an easy decision to make, but an exciting one. And yeah,
You
here we
haven't looked back.
no, absolutely not.
On that note, I wanted to ask you a little bit about challenges and some of the biggest challenges that you might have faced as a woman in tech, both when you were an employee and now as an entrepreneur. Sometimes when I ask that question on here to ladies, they actually say, I didn't face any challenges. So I suppose first up, did you? And how did you overcome them?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. I would love to say that I've not faced any challenges, but I think, and I would love to know the people that haven't faced any challenges. But
Yeah.
no,
I get a
yeah,
couple.
yeah, in the minority maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as an employee, so working, as we all know, within tech, and data's no exception, it's very, very male dominated. I'd probably say 9 times out of 10, I was the only female on the team, which made it, I think, incredibly lonely at times, to be honest. There were a few times in which I thought, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And actually, I think there are some very scary stats that a lot of women do end up leaving tech purely because that it doesn't fit them. And I think there are potentially other more flexible or welcoming industries for them to be working in. So yeah, I'd been spoken over, I've been ignored, I've been insulted. There are a whole host of things that I've unfortunately faced. The list kind of goes on, but in terms of how I overcame them, so that one in particular, at the time, and I think it's what I love about the SheCanCode community and other communities that now exist, I wasn't aware of them, and if there were any, but when I first started in my career over 12 years ago, I didn't feel like that existed. At least I didn't find it at the time. And I found sort of networking wasn't an easy thing to get into. Like when you're tied to that 9 to 5, getting out and meeting people is tough, unless you go to conferences and events, and obviously that's a good place. But being a young female, again, going to tech conferences, it's all very male sort of dominated, and
Yeah.
I found it very intimidating, to be honest. But what I did do instead was just make sure I had a better sort of support system around me in terms of like my family and my friends. So if I did have that tough day in the office and I felt like I'd been ignored, and it was a rough one, then I had other people that I could turn to kind of, I guess, vent to, and just who could support me outside of it. But later on, definitely communities and networking has just been incredible. I think I would do a special shout out because I am now officially a role model with Next Tech Girls.
Oh yes,
But
we
that's
love them. Yeah, we've had them on the
so
podcast.
brilliant.
So
You have.
wonderful team.
I listened to Emily's episode.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And now Gail is heading it up whilst Emily's on maternity leave, which is very exciting. But I couldn't recommend joining those. I just wish I knew about them when I was starting out in my career, and as I was working my way through. But so that one in particular is kind of the main challenge, I'd say, from an employee perspective. Moving into being an entrepreneur, I think taking the leap to set up my business has probably been the biggest. It's just such a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
You go from being able to an extent, go into the office and leave, and you can switch off, can't you, to an extent. Whereas with a business, I saw this very funny thing the other day that said, I left my 9 to 5 so that I could pursue my business, and now I work 24/7. And honestly, it can feel like that sometimes. I think I'm so passionate about what I do and I love what I do that it can take over a little bit in my head, unfortunately, as well as everything else. But now I've had to take on more responsibilities like managing finances, marketing, and what all of that looks like. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's definitely, yeah, challenging at times. But in terms of, yeah, how I overcome that, there are so many resources available out there now, and so I try and make use of as much as I possibly can that's online. Also making use of my existing network, so I've built an amazing network over sort of 12 years, and that's a mixture of business owners, people who are still working full-time employed for other businesses, and yeah, I just everyone, there's a wealth of knowledge out there in your network, and so it's quite nice being able to yeah, chat to them about how we're all facing the same challenges essentially, and we're not
Yeah.
alone.
And for you to share your story as support for someone else as well, because you're so right. We've had ladies on this podcast before share them starting a business, and the fact that it is hard, and
Yeah,
that it's really nice to hear from other people that they found it just as hard as you, and to
yeah,
share, you know, your advice and what went right and what went wrong. And social media is lovely, and you get to see all these, you know, pictures of people winning awards and doing
yeah,
fantastic, but there's a lot in between that starting up and getting that award and what that journey
absolutely.
looks like, and that, you know, you do eventually get there, but you know, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think with social media, you can be led to believe that it's an overnight success, and actually it's happened super quickly for some people, and it may well be for some that it does happen in however that kind of works out. But yeah, absolutely, it's not there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and yeah, a lot of effort, and you need to, I think something that I learn as well is having the discipline to come back.
Yeah.
So towards the end of last year, one of my contracts, the client that I was working with, came to an end, and I kind of had a bit of a lull because it was Christmas, so I took some time off and spent some time with my boys. It was lovely, but having the discipline to kind of come back to my desk and think, right, I need to start doing more, and yeah, just getting back out there, and what that kind of looked like. It's tough,
Mhm.
like dragging yourself out of bed sometimes. Like, you do really need to believe in what you're doing, and be so passionate about it that no matter how you're feeling, you're back here and you're doing it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but no, it is amazing. And I think, yeah, communities that exist out there. And another thing as well is getting some coaching as well. That's what so I've got a business coach that I tap into now. We have weekly sessions, and that I just find helps me get really clear on the goals that I have and how I'm actually going to get to them, and reach them. But yeah, so that again, as an entrepreneur, is probably a big thing. And then the only other challenge I'd say that probably existed in both of those and still continues to exist and probably will forever is imposter syndrome, which I
Yeah.
feel like we all talk about and all feel. And not just as an entrepreneur, but as a mum and a wife, and just as a woman, like, just, yeah, every single day I one worry or question what I'm doing, and if I'm doing a good enough job, and whether I should be doing this. And actually, yeah, it's tough. But again, the way in which I sort of try and move through that is I don't allow it to stop me, first of all. But I try and remind myself of, like, the successes, and celebrate the wins, and no matter how big or small they are, it's just, yeah, yeah, fun and games.
Yeah, and just and you said they're moving through that. That is absolutely right. It's navigating that feeling,
Yes,
because and understanding that everybody else is having similar feelings and thoughts. Because sometimes when you do look at people and you think, oh, that looks so fantastic, look at them on Instagram, and actually they're having similar thoughts, and they have days where they think maybe this wasn't right for me. And you know, it's just navigating those feelings
it
until
is.
you go back around to, okay, yeah, I'm back with that fire, and this was great, and this was exactly what I wanted to do. But everybody has that up and down. yeah, just connecting with more people that are willing to share that is so valuable.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I agree, definitely. And I've led teams of like 4 or 5 people, and I remember having a chat with one of them in particular since starting DataFit, and she was talking about just how, well, I was running a workshop in particular, and she was just saying how confident I came across and how she aspires to be like that. And I said, quite honestly, I come out of those meetings and I start to think, did I run that well enough? Did everybody get value out of that workshop? What is it that we, and so although I may come across as being quite confident, it's yeah, absolutely, it is navigating it, it is pushing through it. And I wouldn't put myself down as being a confident person, but I do try to push myself out of my comfort zone, and just yeah, no matter how much those negative feelings come up, I do really, really try to push through it, work through it, and just keep going.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. On that note, can you discuss a specific moment or experience that was pivotal in your entrepreneurial journey? Is there something that really stands out for you?
Yeah, so I suppose I think we've probably covered off some of it is when I first launched DataFit. I think because it was obviously post maternity leave, but I think probably more so during my entrepreneurial journey. So I touched upon last year how at the end of the year, it was my biggest client that I'd had, and a lot of my work can either be divided into smaller businesses where I'm supporting many businesses at once, or depending on the project, it could be that I'm working full time for one business. And so towards the end of last year, it was a very, very abrupt end. And all of a sudden I was like, well, now what? I've not got anything else kind of scheduled in. So yeah, being reliant on what I was hoping was going to come through didn't come to fruition, unfortunately, with them. I had lovely feedback. It was all down to budget issues, which I think unfortunately is a very common thing at the moment and topic. But yeah, I kind of came to the end of last year thinking, well, now what? And actually from that pivotal piece, I think I'd been so focused on one area of the business and who I was supporting that actually I completely redefined what I wanted to do with DataFit and who I could serve. And so it kind of gave me, although it was a really scary time, quite honestly, it was a scary time. It became a very exciting, pivotal. I have met so many people now. I decided to go out networking. But I think you can either kind of give up or try and carry on. And I think it was at that stage I could have either decided I'm going to go back to full-time employment now, because there are some jobs available and I could go and do that, or I carry on with DataFit and I push through. And actually, I absolutely loved it. I don't know if I just thrive on these kind of high pressure situations, but yeah, I decided that actually it was time to take stock, review what I was doing and see how I could essentially future-proof the business. And I think, yeah, I absolutely did that. And so this year has been amazing so far. And I've worked with, yeah, some amazing businesses and yeah, really excited for the rest of the year. But yeah, I think challenges just, yeah, get thrown your way. And it's a bit of a curveball, I think, that I'd
You
face.
just keep going. Is there, based on that, is there any advice that you would give to other women who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs in the tech field? Or now you know what you know, is there anything that you wish somebody had told you before you started on that journey?
Oh, I like that question. I think believe in yourself and your vision. I think set yourself some very clear goals and stay focused on that. I think we can become very distracted. We've obviously talked about social media. We can see what other people are achieving and actually wish that we were there, even though they might be 5-10 years ahead of us. I think stay in your lane, focus on what it is that you want to achieve, and self-doubt is totally normal, but overcoming that, as we talked about, and pushing through is absolutely key. I would also say don't be afraid to fail. So I think learning that like towards the end of last year there are going to be so many challenges and potentially setbacks, that it's just a part of business. And I think we all hope that it's going to be plain sailing, but it might not necessarily be. And I think to be aware of that when you're coming into this. But yeah, developing resilience, probably just kind of coming back time after time, and
Yeah.
using your failures as kind of opportunities or times to grow, is definitely what I would say, from my experience. But I think from a tech perspective as well, things are changing so much in the landscape. So obviously we've got AI, that's obviously the big thing at the moment, and technologies and industry trends and all that stuff. Try and stay on top of it, attend workshops, go to those events and those conferences to keep you relevant and aware of kind of what's coming either down the track, if anybody knows, or at least, yeah, just stay with what's current, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of my learnings, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, really good, especially about the resilience part, because even if you do decide, if a lady decides later on, actually, this isn't for me and I'm going to go back into the workforce, the skills that you would have picked up and the resilience that you would have built would make you an even better employee when you did go back into the workforce. So it never would be a wasted period of time. You just go in as a stronger, better employee.
Yeah, do you know what? I absolutely agree. And so, like in December, when I was thinking about whether to go back to full-time employment or whether to keep pushing on with DataFit, I'm very glad that I continued with DataFit. But equally, you learn so much, and you become so valuable to a business, and the experience and the skills that you gain, from running your own business. It's just, I completely agree. Absolutely.
Your day is obviously very manic. You've mentioned you're a mum, a wife, everything else in between. So, how do you maintain a balance between your personal and professional life as an entrepreneur? Do you
Um,
switch off?
I certainly try. Yeah, I was only saying the other day, I wish there were more hours in a day. Yes, it's definitely a challenge. I found a few things that work for me to help me bring some sort of balance. So one is staying organized. So yeah, not only as an entrepreneur, but a mum, and a wife, and my own needs as well. So that kind of looks like planning, basically, and understanding what we've got coming up in the week, and not only what those long-term goals are, but I get incredibly specific in what activities I've got, right from dropping the boys off to reviewing my calendar, any outstanding actions. There's so much going on and to juggle that I can only achieve it and do it through proper planning and organisation, really. I can be so consumed by DataFit that I do just, need to be as organized as I possibly can. And I come to the end of the week and just try and there's always going to be things that come up, but I always try to give myself a little bit of flexibility in it. And I've also recently come to set very clear boundaries on when I'm available to work as well.
Yeah.
I think there's always this expectation that we're available or we're online, and actually I can't physically, well, none of us should physically be doing that. It's not very good for our health, but I can't be because of family life and a husband that does shift work. And so I am very much the main carer, trying to juggle it all, really. Setting those boundaries has been really helpful, because I think it can all really blur. I don't know if it was something that kind of came in during COVID, where we were all having to juggle life at home as well as work, and it was obviously everything became very, very blurred and intertwined.
Mm.
And I think now I'm hoping that a lot of people will be able to start, if not already, reeling that back a little bit, and putting in some very clear boundaries that, when you close your laptop, it's when you're finished. And
Yeah. Healthier for everybody.
definitely. But and then I think the final thing for me is also about staying present. I've struggled a lot with staying focused. So like if I'm with the boys thinking about work, or if I'm working, I'm thinking about the boys. We all talk about like mum guilt, and yeah, making sure that we can deliver on everything that we're juggling and that we've got going on. But I found that, and I've had to work really hard on it. It's trying to quiet the millions of thoughts that run through our brains. But yeah, staying present and like multitasking, I find does not work for me. Even though I'm pretty sure we are, as women, meant to be renowned for multitasking, I
Yeah.
can say that it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that way I'm then giving my all to my children or to my clients. And so I'm not then, obviously things happen, and I'll start to think about, oh, what should we have for lunch or for dinner or something like that while I'm in the middle of work. But yeah, trying really hard to stay present, and yeah, it's hard, but it can be done. So yes, finding the balance is a continuous thing.
Continuous struggle. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had ups and downs and lots of successes. So I'm interested to ask you, looking back on your journey, what are you most proud of achieving, and what are your future goals for yourself and your business? What should we
Oh.
expect next from DataFit?
Oh, yes. So I think what I'm most proud of achieving is probably launching with a very young family. It's probably a big achievement that I don't really recognize sometimes, because I think we're all so busy day after day after day, you just carry on. That yeah, I think launching a business it's no mean feat. And yeah, I think it's been an incredible journey so far, but yeah, something that I should definitely recognize a little bit more. Um, Probably believing in myself and my vision, and for continuing to push forwards as well. Like there have been knockbacks and I have been let down by people, and it happens. But I think coming back time after time to keep going and believing in what it is that I want to do with DataFit has yeah, it's definitely something to be proud of. In terms of future goals, so for me personally, I always want to give back. And so I mentioned earlier that I'm a role model for Next Tech Girls, and I'm always trying to find ways in which I can give back. And I think because I struggled earlier on in my career, I want to make sure that girls and women don't ever feel like how I did. And so I will continue to work with communities and other women in business as well, if that's something that yeah, I'd love I get involved in, and would love to continue to do so. Just back on the finding balance piece, I think I would always love to and will continue to work on trying to find a better balance for everything. I absolutely love what I do, but I also know that it's not everything, and my family are also a huge priority and my top priority. And so yeah, just enjoying more time with them and how I find that balance is a continuation. But in terms of DataFit, big goals and big plans for DataFit. Growing the team, so over the next 12 to 18 months we've got yeah, team growth, which means that we can support more businesses, expand our offering and what we're doing. But we're also looking to make our training more widely available. So right now it tends to be sort of live sessions, either in person or virtual, but making that available via like an online platform is something that's kind of in the works at the moment, and means that hopefully it will make it more accessible to a lot of people and who are looking to either pivot or start a career in data management as well. But really the better that we do DataFit wise, and the more that we can give back. And so I'd love to just yeah, grow, and it means that yeah, we can support communities and yeah, just do good in the world is kind of my
Yeah.
aim.
Yeah, and just remembering to do that as well is so important, because it will be in your DNA as you grow, and it will be part of
Absolutely.
your team, and they kind of expect all of that. And as you go on to do bigger and better things, it's in your culture. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's very important. We are already out of time. I could keep talking to you about this
Sorry.
the rest of the afternoon, but we're going to have you back on here at some point to hear all about DataFit and how you achieve those goals, and to hear about your team and how they've grown. So we would love to have you back at some point. But for now, thank you so much, Sam, for being so honest and genuine and just so humble about your journey. I'm sure our community are going to find it so invaluable to have heard that. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And to everybody listening, as always, thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.